Hello, my beautiful friends. I felt called to come on and do a reading with this oracle deck, and I was hearing that your inner child has a message. So, very strangely, I was getting this urge to do a reading about your inner child, what your inner child wants to communicate with you. And I was setting up for this reading, getting ready, doing my meditation, and I went to take a sip of water. And for some reason, I completely missed my mouth. I don't know what happened. I know how to drink. Well, I do know how to drink. um, Recovering alcoholic. But I also, I know how to drink. I don't know, I drink an obscene amount of this lemon water. So I know how to drink from a can. I know. But when I took a sip, it didn't even hit my lips and it poured all down my front, right? And I immediately heard a message that your inner child wants you to pour more into yourself, okay? I don't believe in accidents. I see symbolism everywhere. I speak the language of the universe, right? So right now, your inner child really wants you to pour more love into yourself, more self-love, which caused me to start researching self-love decks. So now I've ordered a few of those, so I'm going to start doing self-love readings. But I felt called to this deck because I feel like I've only used it once or twice. It's a deck that I got off of Etsy, the Inner Child Oracle deck, and the art on it is beautiful. An artist did, Bunny Brown, an artist did all of the artwork for it. It's original artwork. So yeah, I wanted to see what message your inner child has for you today. I'm going to pull 3 cards, and there is an upright and a reversal meaning, and I'm going to talk about both of them. You may resonate with one, you may resonate with all 3, right? So let's get into it. Inner child, what does your inner child, I almost feel like your inner child is asking for attention right now. So we're gonna shuffle, and I'm not gonna look at the cards during the cut like I normally do. I will look at the bottom. So Spirit, whatever card ends up on the bottom, that's where we're starting with what your inner child is crying out for right now. And again, self-love. Again, I poured that water all down my front. All right, maybe you need to drink more water. If you need a reason to drink more water, I've said this before, as someone with ADHD, someone who's autistic, someone who doesn't know when I'm hungry or thirsty, right? I never really understood how to understand my body's cues and signals. I always would forget to drink water. And then last year, over a year ago now, I felt called to drink a lot of water. And when I started drinking a lot of water, and I mean, I drink a lot of water, my intuition actually improved, right? Because energy is fluid. So if you've been looking for a good reason, or you've never had a reason to drink more water and you're an intuitive, it will elevate your intuitive skills, your downloads. So drink more water. One more shuffle. Whoops. All right. So we are going to take the bottom of the deck. So what is your inner child wanting to communicate with you today? What does your inner child need? What is your inner child struggling with? We have Celeste magic. Very interesting, because I just mentioned how if you're an intuitive, if you're an empath, drinking more water will actually heighten your skills. And, maybe as a child, you were really into magical things, right? That's something that I resonate with. As a child, I really believed in magic. I believed in the power of wishing, right? I had a wish keeper when I was young, and I would write wishes on the paper that came in the wish keeper. You wear it around your neck, and there was a dolphin on it. Now that I wish I still had that. Anyway, and I remember my cat got really sick, and you know, the first vet we took my cat to, her name was Coral, if that's symbolic to anyone. The first vet we took my cat to immediately said there was no hope. We took it to a second vet, which kind of said the same thing, but they said they would try and treat her. And, you know, I wished and I wished and I wished, and I tried to will my cat back into health. And she did end up living for another couple of years after that. And the vet really couldn't understand why it happened. Like it made no medical sense. And I really believed that I had something to do with it. But when I told people around me that, or when I told my parents that, they kind of, you know, brushed it off that, well, that's impossible, right? When I was young, I was really into like horoscopes and candles, and I can remember being teased about that. So I kind of, Mr. Crow, I kind of hid that part of myself. And it wasn't until I started unmasking, when I found out I was autistic, late diagnosed, I started unmasking and I rediscovered magic and spirituality. And I wasn't in the same energy of trying to please others, right? So maybe there's a message here for some of you, like, what does your inner child want you to do that you don't do because you're trying to please others, or you're afraid of what other people will think? All right, Celeste. Maybe your name is Celeste. Celestial being, I'm hearing. What number is this? Well, I don't know. Celeste. Ooh, 11. And it's on page 43. So I'm hearing like 143 can be I love you, right? So I'm hearing 43, love you, and I love you. All right. So it's on page 44, which is also about, Tristan, abandonment. 15, devil energy. Oh, there is a number on it, is there? Oh yeah, there's the number. Why didn't you tell me? All right, so 44 is an energy of protection. So if you are, you know, an intuitive, a reader, make sure you protect your energy. Or if you're an empath, make sure you protect your energy. I am Celeste, the magical witch of the forest. I love to wander about nature and collect herbs for my potions and spells. Oh my gosh, this is bringing back so many memories. You know, I was a little bit like, I guess, and it's not an insult, but I was a little bit weird, right? When I was growing up, I really didn't resonate with, especially in junior high, right? Like I really didn't resonate with the other people my age and what they were doing. You would often find me like playing in the woods because my parents had, we lived in like a subdivision where the lots had woods around the houses. And I would often be playing in the woods by myself. You know, I was a little bit of an oddball, but you know, that could be because I was autistic, because I was a starseed, because I was spiritual and I just didn't know it, right? The world is mesmerizing to me. Sometimes I get lost, wandering for days. I learned everything I know from observing the natural world and following my intuition. See? And I just talked about intuition and water. Have you become a bit consumed with adulting and responsibility? Have you forgotten the wonder and magic that you possess? So we are all born magical, right? But it's programmed out of us. We all have, you know, gifts, but again, they're very quickly programmed out of us by our peers, by our teachers, by our parents, by trauma. This makes for a cranky and bored inner child. So, have you been spending too much time with adulting, like doing muggle things? Where can you incorporate some magic in your life? We are meant to be free and wild, but unfortunately, sometimes we are forced to grow up fast and our magic and wonder get left behind. replaced by another mask that prevents us from truly experiencing our own inner power. We dissolve into a mundane existence and poof, just another cog in the machine that has been formed. So one thing I'm hearing about this, you could be someone that had a lot of trauma growing up that made you grow up faster than you should have, right? Celeste is here to remind you of the magic you possess when you return to the childlike wonder and curiosity you once had. So begin to explore your world with curious and excited eyes. Become mesmerized by the magic and listen closely to the magic within. And I talk about this just like me pouring water all over myself, right? There are constantly magical things happening around us all the time. It's just we aren't programmed to see it, right? So I'm even hearing, say to the universe, show me the magic, and then look out for that magic. And the more you see, the more you notice, the more magical things that will happen to you, right? Even if it's just signs and synchronicities, seeing animals, stuff like that. So you may resonate with the reversed. Your magical inner child might be lost out wandering in the forest while life passes you by. Take a moment to recenter and find a balance that works for you. Your mantra, I have magic within me. I am excited and curious about the world. Remedies, go out in nature and be curious as you explore. Try to get out of your head and into the moment. Play with goop, slime, or create a fun potion with things you found in nature. Let your imagination run wild. I just heard, if you're autistic, you might have sensory issues. For me, any goop and slime and stickiness, and I have a problem with that sometimes. Tune into your imagination through the mundane human tasks. Speak in an accent, sing and dance as you grocery shop. Play pretend while doing chores and errands. Let life be fun again. And it's interesting because my entire life, when I would see someone singing, right, or listening to music and humming, dancing at the bus stop because they have their headphones in and they're really into their music, society, muggles can kind of look at people like that and judge them like I used to. I actually saw something on social media. It's this spiritual person who really dances in a really unique way in public. And oftentimes he actually has the police called on him because people think he's on drugs or something, right? And he's not doing anything wrong. He's just dancing. But it triggers people who are hiding themselves, right? It triggers people who don't have that freedom to be themselves. Now when I'm out and I see someone again, at the bus stop, jamming to their music or singing to themselves, I think, good for you. That's awesome, right? Even me now, when I'm out in public, I actually hum to myself. I don't care what anybody thinks. It can be freeing, right? Journaling questions. When was the last time you remember getting lost in the magic of life? When do you feel most serious and clenched down on life? When do you feel most curious and captivated by life? So I can't answer those for you, but it's worth thinking about, right? So I'm going to keep this. You magical little witch, you. I love it. All right. So, message from your inner child. What does your inner child want you to know? What is your inner child calling attention to? Message from your inner child. We have Oilia. Naivety? I don't know how to say it. Naivety? I don't know. Remember, if you were watching that reading I did the other day where it was a love reading where the person you were connected to thought you were naive, and I was like, whatever. Oh, flow, water, drink more water. Seriously, pour love into yourself right now. Water helps your intuition. Maybe you watch Stranger Things, right? The way that Eleven channels her powers, she goes in a tank of water, right? Or a bathtub or an inflatable pool. So that's actually also a good way to connect to your intuition is, you know, being near the water, near the ocean, near a lake, having a bath, having a shower. I actually find that I get a lot of downloads when I shower. So usually I keep, you know, I keep a journal close by so that when I start having downloads, like, and I get out of the shower, I write them all down. So, Ophelia, naivety, or however you say it. I don't really care. 35. 35. 35. Nope. Although I hope Jordan comes out. Maybe your name is Jordan. I hope Jordan comes out at some point. All right. December 2nd, December 3rd could be symbolic. January 22nd, January 23rd. March 5th, April 3rd, or May 3rd. My name is Ophelia. Sometimes I feel like I can't do anything right. I seem to trust all the wrong people. I make mistakes. Oh, this is like a wounded, this is definitely a wounded inner child energy. And you know, empath, I'm hearing empath, right? You trust everyone, or you trust the wrong people. I make the same mistakes over and over again. I just don't seem to learn. My siblings often tell me stories that get me into trouble. You'd think I'd know not to believe them by now. Wake me up when the world feels different, please. That's triggering a song. Wake me up when September ends, Green Day. Ophelia comes to visit you when your inner child is feeling worthless or disempowered. Okay, so you could definitely be an empath who's feeling disempowered, right? That's kind of just a little talk on being an empath, right? So oftentimes people who are empaths are very caring, they're very forgiving, they're very patient, and they can, you know, trust the wrong people, give their energy to the wrong people. And, you know, something that I've been learning about is empaths will be sent the wrong type of people in order to empower themselves. Like they learn a very hard lesson. For some of you, it could be like a repeated lesson. I often talk about how I kept attracting, bark, bark. I kept attracting, you know, friends who would take advantage of me, even like hiring people. They would screw me over, take my money and not do the work, right? Or be inconsistent. I think my blueberries are here. I'm obsessed with blueberries. Okay. So anyway, one thing an empath goes through is, you know, they're sent the same lesson, but eventually you're going to be sent a very unhealthy person, right? That you will put your trust into. Right away, I'm getting Phoenix energy. So probably someone very unhealthy with unhealthy patterns where you keep getting burned and burned and burned and burned and burned. For me, it was like all through my life, getting burned by different people. And then, you know, I had an experience where I phoenixed out of it. That's what an empath goes through when they're disempowered. And that lesson is meant to empower you so that you don't put your trust in the wrong people, so that you know, learn how to protect your energy, protect yourself, water yourself, right? So maybe for some of you, you know, you're feeling disempowered by a situation, by lessons you keep attracting. So they may have lost sight of their personal power. And that's why I was saying, I hope that Jordan comes out, because the card Jordan is about your inner power. So they may have lost faith in themselves and have low self-esteem. Think about it. The water, pouring it on myself, came through with a message of self-love, right? Ordering self-love cards to use to do self-love readings. Everything's connected. Look at the magic of it. Without inner power and confidence, our sense of intuition and ability to listen, mind, body, and spirit to things and respond with a deep sense of knowledge is non-existent. Have you lost your personal power and passion for yourself? Have you been feeling like you just can't keep up or sort of put what's real anymore? More often than not, when this happens, we are ungrounded, depleted, and out of touch. It's important to breathe deep and get grounded, slow down, and return to self. So, and for some of you, this also can talk about being too trusting in a situation, right? And getting burned, like I was talking about. Again, I'm having a rush of heat here, Phoenix energy. So your mantra, when I am centered, I know the truth. Remedies, get grounded by putting your feet on the floor and breathing deep into the ground. And this actually works really well if you go outside. Like here it's winter. I guess you could put your feet in the snow if you're brave enough, but it really actually works well if you want to ground yourself to go outside and like barefoot on the grass, right? Connect to the earth. Imagine thick, nurturing energy coming up from your feet and filling your system with love and sustenance. Practice staying this grounded and full all day. Find an activity or hobby that makes you feel strong. So working on the root chakra, weight training, martial arts, ballet, axe throwing, etc. Start tuning into your body, mind, and spirit before engaging in experiences. Listen to what all parts of you need and act accordingly. Journaling questions. When I feel disempowered, I fill in the blank. I feel most empowered. Oh my gosh. Those are just my dogs. The blueberries are here. The blueberries are here. Come get the blueberries, Mommy. Yep. Apologies to those of you who have sensitivity to noise. I'm one of those people. I have noise canceling headphones on right now. I feel most empowered when ... To trust myself would look like ... Fill in the blanks. Okay. So maybe for some of you, you need to find that Queen of Swords energy and stand in your truth and empower yourself and put up boundaries, right? All right, one more. One more. Is there a song? No, it's Cecilia. Never mind. I'm hearing that song. Is it Cecilia? Cecilia, you're breaking my heart. I'm hearing that song for some reason. It's like these two make, if you mush them together, they make the names Cecilia. One more. Oh, we have a runner. All right, so I feel like I should read this one for you. Or should I? We have two here. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, so we have self-sabotage on the bottom. So I don't know if I'm going to read it or not, but it could be that you are in a situation where, you know, someone is mistreating you, or maybe in the past you were. We have Rosie, abuse, and Berenice, suppression. Okay, so it could be that you have wounds around abuse, emotional abuse, other types of abuse that you were suppressing. It's possible that I mentioned empaths for a reason, right? So you could be, or maybe in the past you resonate with this, being a disempowered empath, which was like maybe you were in a situation where you were being mistreated, there was abuse, you could have been suppressing what was happening to you and continuing to stay in that energy, self-sabotaging yourself, right? So I'm going to read these two. Let's start with Rosie. All right, Rosie, 14, Temperance. So I feel like someone was maybe treating you unfairly. All right. All right. And it's on page 55, which is about positive change. Okay. So my name is Rosie, and I don't need you. I don't need anybody. All anybody ever did was hurt me. So now I only worry about me, myself, and I. I am the coolest, strongest kid in the school, and I am not afraid to show it. I find power in picking on others, from the smallest animals to the largest bullies. The world needs to toughen up a little anyway. So this is actually how I look at like bullies, right? You know, they're out there bullying other people or at school, and it really is a reflection of their experience, right? And they're kind of projecting it outwards onto other people because that's what they learned, right? From their parents, that's what was programmed into them. You could even resonate with remember when I was talking about the empath who is kind of sent a lesson from a very unhealthy person where you need to empower yourself, even though you have, compassion for their situation, right? So maybe you were sent a situation where somebody who was very hurt as a child started hurting you. And, it's never okay. If you ever do find yourself in a situation where there is any type of abuse, right? Even emotional. When I was young, we were taught that emotional abuse didn't really matter as long as you weren't being hit, right? But that's not, it's abuse. And it can be very hard for people, especially empaths, disempowered empaths, to put up boundaries and choose themselves. So maybe you were sent someone who was quite wounded and, mistreated you, hurt you, spoke down to you. Rosie represents the inner child who sometimes comes out and closes our hearts and spirits to the world. This part of your inner child was hurt by someone who claimed to love her, or him, or them. Everybody's included here. And that is the biggest betrayal of all. She, he, they. Yes, this book, including everyone, it says she, he, they. Thank you. Are hurting and in a constant fight mode. This is the part of you that pushes other people away before they can hurt you. Rosie is here, so maybe you do push other people away, or maybe someone you were dealing with pushed you away, right? Rosie is here to help this part of you heal. They, he, she is needing some attention and care. She, he, they need someone to show them consistent love and care they can count on, and that person needs to be you. So this is something I talk about in my love readings, right? When you're dealing with an inconsistent energy and you try to communicate that with that person, you try to fix it, you start overgiving, you start suppressing your own needs. Your body, your inner child, your soul is calling out for care and consistency, and we can't wait for someone else to give that to us. So we have to start showing up consistently for ourselves, because then we'll attract in a more consistent energy. If Rosie showed up for you today, it's time to talk to the inner child who believes love and pain go hand in hand and help them learn a new way, right? So this was a lesson for me because growing up, that's what I experienced in my house. That's the dynamic I saw between my parents. I saw my mom take it, walk on eggshells, trying to keep the peace. We all learned how to be very small, right? So we didn't rock the boat, create waves, create friction. And that's not what healthy love is supposed to be. So if this card is reversed, you are ready to let go of some of the stories of abuse that have held you hostage. You have done the deep inner work, and it's time to let this inner child be free. So, remedies. Breathe into the thoughts and feelings that come up as you look at this card. Can you simply be with and acknowledge it? So if you want to screenshot it, whoops. Time to be released, right? It's time to release that part of you and heal that part of you. Find some time to safely rage today. Oh, I like this. Hit a pillow on your bed over and over again. Park your car somewhere safe and yell and scream. Stomp your feet until you can't anymore. Do something to move the inner rage. That rage is coming from the deep pain your inner child feels out of your body. Sometimes you see people go to, there's places, I mean, I don't know if there's a place where I live, but there's places where you can actually go in and like smash dishes and, I'm seeing the movie Office Space where they beat the crap out of the copier. Journaling questions. What part of my inner child is hurting right now? In what ways have I closed myself off to the love and connection of others? What scares me most about being open to love? And we have Berenice, I don't know. Suppression. Oh no, oh geez. This one is about suppression of the voice, right? So maybe I'm seeing a connection here, right? Maybe you learned, what did I just say? Maybe you learned to be very quiet. Maybe you learned to not speak up about experiencing this. You could have a blocked throat chakra where you're afraid to put up boundaries. Like, this is about your voice. And I still haven't posted that video. It's about what happens when you are in that type of situation and you're being gaslit, and you silence yourself, right? I'm still gonna post it. I'm just waiting for my intuition to tell me it's the right time. My name is Berenice. I have forgotten how to speak. My voice was very loud. I'm starting to forget the sound. I was told to hush. Bite your tongue. Keep opinions to yourself. I know deep down that secretly they feared me, my truth, my power. But the truth is, I fear my power too. What was I saying about the Queen of Swords, right? These are all connected. If Berenice appears in a reading, your inner child does not, what? That seems like a typo. Your inner child does not truth her or him themselves. I think it's meant to be trust. Throughout time, as they were shamed or suppressed, they lost their power. Maybe they were told something they believed to be true couldn't possibly be. They were told not to be scared when they were. And so over time, they began to ignore their own instinct. If you find yourself unable to make a clear decision, unable to spot red flags in a relationship, fear of speaking your truth, or unsure if you can trust yourself, okay? So for some of you, you could have been in a situation where you were like gaslit, right? And again, you could have had someone that made you feel like you were crazy, that made you question your own reality, your own perception. And that's this silent wound, right? Like over the last month, I've been talking a lot about this silent wound, and how we shouldn't be telling people to silence themselves. We shouldn't be telling people, you shouldn't speak about that, or you shouldn't talk like this, and reflected back in my dogs, like dogs are supposed to bark. That's their way of communication. I'm not going to silence my dogs, just like I'm not going to silence my children. And I talk about my experience growing up, like, first of all, silenced about that. But also I had a voice. Like I was a very, like the way I am now in my readings, that's how I was when I was a kid. Like I used to sing, I used to like imitate lines from movies. But whenever my sister and I were being loud and having fun, we were punished or we were made to feel bad. So we learned how to like stay very silent. I've been silent my whole life. Definitely a blockage when I started my channel. Um, Definitely a blockage in relationships. And that's why, like, when I hear my kids laughing downstairs, I'm not going to tell them to be quiet because I want them to have a voice, right? You deserve to have a voice. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to speak your truth, right? You deserve to trust in your own perception, your own experience, even if someone tells you that you shouldn't or convinces you that you shouldn't. Like there's a lot of connection here. It almost feels like these three, right, are connected. Okay, if you find yourself unable to make a clear decision, unable to spot red flags in relationships, fear of speaking your truth, or unsure if you can trust yourself, Berenice, I want to say Bernice, is here to say that you can. It will take time and practice, relearning how to feel, understand, and follow your intuition. But this awareness is the first step on your journey to deeper self-trust. It's time to come out of hiding. So again, what are you like? Maybe you're someone who wants to share something with the world, but you have a blocked throat chakra. Why, yes, Spirit, I think that's a great idea. Let me grab it. The book. If this card is reversed, you are regaining your personal power and beginning to trust yourself more deeply. Mantra, I can trust myself. I am powerful. Define personal power. Start to observe where you give your personal power away. Begin to tune into your inner child and affirm for him, her, them. You are safe. You can trust yourself. You know what's best for you. Journaling questions. In what ways has your personal power been suppressed? Have you ever been told something you felt was real or right? Did it cause you to doubt yourself? If so, in what ways? So I think this is the sign that I've been looking for to post that reading. It's not a reading, it's a video where I talk about a gaslighting wound and an abuse wound. It was very triggering for me. I've really been afraid to post it, right? Because again, it comes from a wound of like being silenced. But if you tell someone how you feel and they question your reality, they call you delusional, they tell you your perception is wrong, they defend themselves, overexposure to that type of energy can cause cognitive dissonance within you where you really do, like, you don't trust yourself. You feel like you're imagining it. And that's, that's something that I went through. Like I kept feeling like, am I imagining this? Am I imagining this? Am I crazy? And I really lost trust in myself, right? So this is an important one, and I think it's Spirit's sign that I need to post that video for you. At what age did you start to doubt yourself? What could you tell yourself at that age to help heal? All right. I'm hearing some things from your inner child, from my inner child, from all of our inner childs. You were never too much, right? You were never asking for too much. You were never too emotional. You didn't imagine what was happening, right? You deserved better. You deserved to be heard. You deserve to share your voice. All right, so I'm going to read the throat chakra blockage. Wasn't planning to, but I have to because Spirit told me so. All right, if you don't speak it, you store it, and then it gets heavy. Suppression, right? A blocked throat chakra suppresses your voice, leaving you feeling unheard, misunderstood, or afraid to express your truth. It convinces you that speaking up is dangerous, that your words don't matter, that silence is safer, or that being agreeable is more valuable than being authentic. This wound often stems from past experiences where your voice was dismissed, ridiculed, or punished. It manifests as difficulty expressing emotions, fear of confrontation, chronic throat tension, or the habit of swallowing your feelings to avoid conflict. You may struggle to ask for what you need, downplay your truth to keep the peace, or feel like you are always censoring yourself to fit in. You may have had physical reactions to this wound. I did. At one point where I had a truth that I needed to express. It was really about how I wasn't happy in my own life, like not having to do with anyone. I actually developed a lot of throat pain, and it was hard for me to swallow. And I remember getting it medically checked out, and they couldn't find anything. It was like a blocked throat chakra. Of course, I always tell you guys this, our body energetically communicates with us, right? But of course, always, if you have pain, always, get yourself checked out by a doctor. I'm not telling you not to get medical advice at all. But the situation that I found myself in where I was really doubting myself and I was suppressing my voice and I was not trusting myself. I wish I had mentioned it in that video. I actually developed like a locked jaw, right? So I had this insane amount of pain in my jaw. And I remember like going to the dentist because I thought I had something like weird going on. There was nothing wrong. There was like, I thought that like I needed a root canal or something, right? There was nothing wrong with my teeth. But it got to the point where, like, again, I was in extreme jaw pain and I couldn't open my mouth, like physically. It hurt. It hurt to open my mouth. And again, I still believe it was the experience that I was in where my voice was being suppressed. And it talks about it over here. I'll read that. Healing a throat chakra blockage requires reclaiming the power of your voice. Your truth does not need to be softened for the comfort of others. Your words deserve space, not suffocation. Speaking up is not just about being heard. It is about honoring yourself, knowing that your thoughts, needs, and emotions are valid. Sing, write, express. Let your voice take up space without apology. The more you speak your truth, the lighter you become, because the things left unsaid do not disappear. They stay trapped within, waiting for the moment you finally set them free. Journaling prompts. Do I feel comfortable expressing my true thoughts and emotions, or do I hold back? What early experiences shaped my beliefs about speaking up and being heard? Have I ever silenced myself to avoid conflict or judgment? Do I struggle with setting boundaries through verbal communication? I mean, this book, you know what? I'm going to read it. How do I feel in conversations? Do I listen fully, interrupt, or feel like I must prove myself? Have I ever felt like my voice didn't matter? How did that affect me? What physical sensations arise when I try to express deep emotions? Do I use excessive words, over-explaining to feel understood? Like, guilty. How can I practice expressing my truth with confidence and clarity? What would change in my life if I fully trusted the power of my voice? A deep energetic imbalance affecting self-expression, communication, and the ability to speak one's truth, often caused by fear of judgment, past invalidation, or suppression of personal voice. This wound manifests as difficulty expressing thoughts and emotions, fear of confrontation, or feeling unheard or misunderstood. Some may struggle with speaking up in relationships, holding back opinions or desires due to fear of rejection or conflict. Others may feel pressure to filter or alter their words to please others, resulting in a loss of authenticity. There may be an internalized belief that their voice doesn't matter or that expressing emotions leads to negative consequences. Emotionally, this wound can create cycles of silence, resentment, or over-explaining to feel understood. Physically, it may manifest as chronic throat tension, sore throats, jaw clenching, or thyroid imbalances. You know what? That's one thing the dentist always told me, right? Like the dentist would always tell me, you don't grind your teeth, Kelly. You're clenching your jaw. And it's true. I really did have a problem clenching my jaw, like all throughout my life. Over time, an unresolved throat chakra blockage can result in passive communication, difficulty setting boundaries, or a fear of public speaking and self-advocacy. Watch for patterns of withholding thoughts, struggling to find the right words, or feeling emotionally suffocated by unspoken truths. Suppressing a throat chakra blockage by either completely shutting down expression, fearing that speaking up will lead to harm, right? Or overcompensating by dominating conversations, oversharing, or speaking impulsively without alignment. Some may silence themselves out of fear, becoming overly agreeable, avoiding difficult conversations, or feeling physically unable to verbalize their emotions. This can manifest as people-pleasing, chronic throat tightness, or struggling to articulate thoughts under pressure. Others may go in the opposite direction, constantly talking but never feeling heard, interrupting conversations, or using excessive words to mask deeper insecurities. This can result in defensive communication, speaking over others, or an inability to listen and connect. And do you know what? It's interesting because that type of energy, someone who's like highly defensive, uses excessive words, over explanations, right? Speaking over others, an inability to listen and connect. If you're meant to learn this lesson, that's exactly, you'll attract someone that has the same blockage, right? You both have a throat chakra blockage, but you behave in very different ways, right? So where this person is defensive and speaks over people, right? You, quiet, afraid to speak your truth, afraid of like conflict, right? So these two, like just like that abandonment wound, right? Where someone with an abandonment wound will attract someone else with an abandonment wound, but you're showing up in different energies. Chaser, runner. Sorry for the labels, but that's how you describe the dynamic. You both have an abandonment wound. One becomes the chaser, one becomes the runner. Throat chakra blockage. So it shows up very differently, but it's the same wound, and it can be triggering, right? Some may suppress this wound by avoiding difficult conversations altogether, fearing their words will be misunderstood or dismissed. Watch for patterns of speech suppression, over-talking without real connection, struggling to express emotions honestly, both of which stem from the same need to embrace authentic, balanced communication without fear. And because of the energy of this reading, I do have to read one more, okay? This is like, choose your own adventure books. They still make those. If you like those as a kid, you should get some, right? Gift your inner child the choose your own adventure book. I got one for my kids about Stranger Things. But this reminds me of the choose your own adventure book, right? Like you open it up. I actually wrote to the author today to really thank her for this book. Like it's invaluable to me. Is that the right word? I don't know. Priceless. It's priceless to me. But you open up this book, you read one wound, right? And then it's almost like a choose your own adventure book. It leads you to another wound, right? So that one is connected to another wound. I'm about to read lack of boundaries because I feel like it's important for this reading. And then when you read the lack of boundaries, there's probably another wound that it takes you to, right? It's like choose your own adventure, but, you know, triggering healing style. Lack of boundaries. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. The lack of boundary wounds convinces you that love and acceptance must be earned through self-sacrifice. It teaches you to say yes when you want to say no, to absorb others' emotions as your own, and to prioritizing keeping the peace over protecting your own well-being. This wound often stems from past experiences where your needs were dismissed, your limits were ignored, or where saying no led to rejection or punishment. Over time, you may have learned that your worth is tied to how much you give, how much you tolerate, how little space you take up. But a life without boundaries is not love, it is self-abandonment. Healing this wound requires reclaiming your right to protect your energy, your time, and your emotional space. Boundaries are not selfish, they are acts of self-respect, the invisible lines that tell the world, I am worthy of care, of consideration, of being heard. The moment you start enforcing your limits without guilt, you stop teaching others that you are willing to be walked over. True connection does not require you to abandon yourself. It requires you to stand firmly in who you are, knowing that real love will never ask you to break yourself to be worthy of it. Very interesting. Let me ask you, are you feeling anxious when I'm reading this to you? Because I just picked up on the most anxious energy reading these two paragraphs. So do you have a fear of putting up boundaries? Are you in a situation where you have to put up boundaries and you're afraid that that person's going to push back or they're going to leave or ghost you, right? Maybe you did put up boundaries and they ghosted you or reacted, and it made you feel like there was something wrong with your boundary, right? Like I'm picking up on a lot of nervous energy as I'm reading this. If you put up a healthy boundary, you don't have to over-explain it, right? Your boundary is your boundary. And if the person you put up a healthy boundary with disappears or reacts to you, that is your confirmation that they are not in an energy where they can show up in a healthy way for you, okay? Because that's what boundaries are supposed to do. They're meant to protect us from harm. So if you put up a boundary and that person leaves, that's your indication that whatever energy they're in right now, they're harming you, right? They're not ready to be healthy. When did I start journaling prompts? I didn't intend for this to be a wounding reading, but that's how it goes. When did I first learn that setting boundaries was difficult or unsafe? Do I struggle to say no? If so, why? How do I feel when I put my own needs before others? Guilty. Have I ever tolerated behavior that made me uncomfortable just to keep the peace? Do I feel guilty? Again, this very heavy, like, dread energy is coming over me. Like, that's the energy I'm channeling right now. Do I feel guilty when I set a boundary, and where does that guilt come from? How do I respond when someone disrespects my limits? Do I speak up or stay silent? Have I ever mistaken self-sacrifice for love or loyalty? What would a relationship with clear, respectful boundaries look like for me? If I trusted that setting boundaries wouldn't push people away, how would I show up differently? What is one boundary I need to set right now to protect my emotional energy? For someone listening to this, I feel like you're in a situation where you need to put up a boundary. Like, that's what I'm feeling. Your body could already be rejecting this situation. Like, you could feel dread, you could feel anxious, nervous, scared. That's your body rejecting it, okay? It's your body saying, this is not safe. A deeply ingrained difficulty in defining, asserting, or maintaining personal limits, often stemming from early experiences of neglect, enmeshment, or conditional love. This wound manifests as people-pleasing, overextending oneself, or struggling to say no, even at the expense of one's own well-being. There may be an internalized belief that setting boundaries is selfish, unkind, or will lead to rejection, causing some to tolerate unhealthy relationships, overcommit, or suppress personal needs to avoid conflict. Some may struggle with distinguishing their own emotions from those of others, feeling overly responsible for people's happiness or discomfort. Emotionally, this wound can lead to resentment, exhaustion, and difficulty forming truly reciprocal connections. So you can actually find yourself in one-sided, like unreciprocal connections, right? Physically, it may manifest as chronic fatigue from overgiving, tension in the throat, difficulty expressing limits, or digestive issues holding in emotional discomfort. Over time, a lack of boundaries can result in burnout, an erosion of self-identity, and relationships that feel one-sided or draining. Watch for patterns of avoiding confrontation, feeling guilty when prioritizing yourself, or attracting individuals who take advantage of your kindness. Right here, right? Like it's all, again, maybe, like maybe you started, froggy in my throat, releasing, cleansing, healing. What do you need to release, cleanse, and heal? Okay. But maybe you were in a connection and you discovered tarot and magic, and now you find yourself here listening to this reading, trying to heal, right? Because that card is interesting because these are all connected, right? Maybe this is what started your journey of healing, right? Suppressing the lack of boundaries wound by either completely shutting others out or maintaining walls so rigid that no one can get close. Instead of learning to set healthy limits, some may swing to the extreme of complete emotional withdrawal, refusing to rely on or trust others as a way to avoid potential hurt. This can manifest as isolating oneself, rejecting intimacy, or being overly self-sufficient to the point of exhaustion. Others may continue to allow boundary violations, but convince themselves they're fine with it, dismissing their own discomfort as unimportant. Some may even develop passive-aggressive tendencies, expressing unspoken resentment through subtle resistance rather than clear communication. Watch for patterns of avoiding direct conversations, feeling resent towards those who expect too much, or overcorrecting by creating distance in relationships that don't necessarily require it. Again, you can see the two different ways this affects people, right? And I can see it, again, in my readings, that these two people with a lack of boundaries wounds will attract each other, right? And not act the same way. Like I said, you could be someone who puts up with less than you deserve. You could be dealing with someone who creates distance, avoidance, passive-aggressive comments instead of just speaking honestly and healthy, right? You can see how even though you're showing, like, we talk about how relationships mirror back to us what we need to learn, whether it's a friendship, romance, whatever, right? Job. You can see how two people can have the same wound and act in completely different ways, right? And attract each other in to heal that wound. Or like expect too much. And I don't mean you were expecting too much. I mean, maybe if you were expecting like more reciprocity, for example, and you spoke up about that, this person could have thought you were expecting too much, right? This person, I'm like, whoever this is about for you. Watch for patterns of avoiding direct conversations, feeling resentment. Oh, I already read that part. Beneath both extremes lies the same need to find balance between generosity and self-protection, learning that boundaries are not barriers, but bridges to healthier connections. So let's just say you're dealing with someone who is at the other side of the extreme, right? If you put up a boundary, they may see it as a barrier, right? And disappear. Interesting. So I'm going to put that book down now. All right. I'm just going to get a couple of tarot cards. Message from your... That's funny. Interesting. You could be very emotionally mature, right? Or maybe you're dealing with someone in a King of Cups energy that's not healthy. So like someone who puts in really little effort, someone who might be emotionally manipulative. Maybe you've been lacking the strength to put up boundaries. This could also be you, right? Like someone who heals from these things becomes this King of Cups. They develop a healthy balance of head and heart. They don't allow, but they stop being triggered by conflict, by arguments. They're able to remain level-headed. And strength. So your inner child, like I chose this deck because it's based on the creator's child. So you have this protective dragon within you, right? You're stronger than you think is what I'm hearing from your inner child. Message from your inner child. What does your inner child want to say to you? We're just going to get a couple. Nothing crazy. 5 of Wands, conflict. So where is there conflict? Where you are suppressing your voice, where you are being hurt. The Moon in reverse. Interesting. Maybe for some of you it took a long time to see this clearly, right? Message from your inner child. What does your inner child want you to know? All right, we have the 6 of Wands, okay? Very much Moana-y, isn't it? So 6 of Wands, you're worth being loved. You're worth being seen, right? Maybe you have a neglect wound. No, I'm not going to read it, Spirit. Like, we'll be here forever. Like I said, that book is like, once you read one wound, you want to read all of them, right? They're all connected. But maybe you have a neglect wound, right? Maybe you attract like unhealthy energy because you don't love yourself enough. Like your inner child is saying you deserve to be seen, you deserve to be heard, you deserve to be loved, you deserve to be recognized. All right, so start pouring that love into yourself. We have the World. So that speaks of patterns and cycles that need to come to an end, right? So what patterns and cycles do you keep repeating based on these cards, based on the wounds that I mentioned, right? People pleasing, overgiving, staying small, self-abandonment, right? Fear of putting up boundaries. Definitely a neglect wound, okay? And we have the Star. So you are capable of healing these things, okay? Look at your little dragon. So you have the strength to heal these things about you and change. Heal yourself, change the energy you're calling in, right? So that you're calling in healthier relationships. King of Cups. And let's get one more card. That's beautiful. For some of you, you could meant to be in this, for some of you, you could be meant to be in the spotlight online, okay? If you've been thinking about it. This is your sign. One more message from your inner child. Okay, so we have strength, right? So even if you can't, like, you're stronger than you think, okay? And even if you can't find that inner strength right now, like imagine imagine that, now I'm hearing Puff the Magic Dragon, but imagine you have a dragon within you. You're powerful. You just have to find you. And we have very specific message here, okay? Very specific. Oh, what reading did I do yesterday where I read these wounds? Did I read them? I have one of these in the wound. I have one of these in the wound videos, abandonment. But this is about, like, you have the strength to heal from these past wounds, okay? 5 of Cups. You need to forgive yourself for, you know, if you blame yourself, right? You need to forgive yourself. You have the ability to heal these past wounds, specifically about like abandonment wounds, like fear of rejection wounds. Those can keep you in unhealthy situations. Those can keep you feeling left out in the cold, or a fear of being abandoned if you share your voice. You have the strength to heal these. You'll become a stronger person. You'll attract in stronger relationships. You know, you could resonate with calling in a relationship or relationships, whatever they are, romantic, friendship, workship, that is trying to reflect back to you or trigger these unhealed wounds within yourself, okay? All right. And I'm just going to I'm going to take that star. I'm going to take that star. Yeah, okay. I'm going to take this card for the cover. I'm going to do it now. And let's just get you a few affirmations, okay? What deck do I want to use? What deck? I can't wait to get the self-care and healing inner child decks I got. All right. These are just, I think this is the universe has your back. I can't remember though. The more I honor my inner light, the more I brighten the world. I choose to shine. How do you find your inner light? You heal your shadows. All right. What does your child self want to say to you? All that I love is more important to me than all that I fear. And what should you love the most? Bueller? Yourself. My productivity stems from inspiration. When I focus on what brings me joy, my tasks become effortless actions. So again, this is a message to like get into that creative flow. Again, when you find when you find what sets your soul spark on fire, you lose sense of time. It becomes effortless. You enter that creative flow. I am willing to see my sameness with others. This opens my awareness to oneness. And just one more. On the floor you go. It's safe to slow down, relax, and let go. So what are you being called to let go right now? Yes, Phoenix energy, okay? Remember, I was feeling Phoenix energy. I am ready to go big, rise up, and step into my power. The Strength card. Beautiful. So before I go, I'm just going to read you, because you're my bestie. I'm going to read you today's message from this calendar. Tuesday, February 17th. Ooh, that's extra magical. 17, the energy of the star, healing. New moon, eclipse in Aquarius. All right. It says times, but I'm just going to skip over that. Happy new moon, eclipse in Aquarius. Ask not what the world can do for you, but what can you do for the world? Make new moon wishes for yourself and the planet today. All right. So I'm sending you and your inner child so much love and light, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for pouring some love on yourself today, right? Like, if you're here listening to this, you're choosing yourself already. And I'm super proud of you for that. And yeah, your inner child is proud of you too. So I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.